So being an ally, so we've had a similar conversation with our Fab Talks, which people can catch up on as well if they want to. So being an ally, where where did that kind of start your mentality for that? Because I know it was difficult at the beginning to get, through some of the racism that you had to deal with, and how you kind of um, developed your resilience, I suppose, through that. So where your outlook on it is amazing. I think you've got an absolutely fabulous outlook on the way that and it made you think differently about it. So where did that kind of begin? Where did that power in yourself develop to be able to have a different thought?
Well, when you are given labels, so for example, labels that you don't choose, so you are referred to as an ethnic minority, even the title, the label is telling you your position and putting you in a box. And sometimes that can be quite hard to wear labels. I talk about wearing labels or refusing to wear labels. I found it quite helpful when I experienced racism or discrimination in the NHS when I had an ally, someone who I felt safe. So the emotions that made me recognize that person as an ally is walking into the room even before anything happened and realizing that they're in the room made me feel that actually I was safe. They might not have to say anything, and an ally, as I'll say later, sometimes doesn't have to speak, but their very presence means that people recognize that this person has the courage to say, hang on a minute. You've asked Nicole that 3 times. She said that she doesn't know. Can we at least give her a chance to go away? Rather than the person who is not being very kind. But you should know, and you should know, that just destroys you and destroys your confidence. But they rely on the silence of people around for that to happen. So for me, allyship, I was speaking to someone earlier. I can talk about racism until I'm blue in the face. It will not change until people who don't look like me, don't sound like me, who have not lived the experiences I have, feel outrage. It's like, no, this is wrong, and have a mentality of not on my watch. Not on my watch will I see someone facing that and just turn a blind eye because it's not affecting me and mine. It's saying, actually, would I like that to happen to me or my child or anyone, my friend? How would I feel being treated like that? And it takes a moment. It takes a moment to kind of think, goodness, you can see on her face that she doesn't know. She's humiliated. It's been done. The least we can do is give her some headspace to let her know that we are not like that person. So for me, allyship came to the fore where I realized nothing will change until we have allies. But then I also realized that it takes so much courage to be an ally. And allies need credit. And I would not be in this position I'm in today without powerful allies. Allies who are in rooms that I haven't made it in, and I might not even want to make it because as someone from an ethnic minority background, as I said, the labels sometimes you wear them, sometimes it depends on the mood. It depends on how it's said. There are some rooms that people will say, Nicole, I see you as the future, this and the future. That I'm thinking, no, thank you very much. Leave me right where I am. I'll just be creating problems for myself. So then you start to self-limit, yeah, because you're trying to not push yourself where people might think, where does she think she is? If I start going around and saying, I want to be the chief nurse of England, they'll be saying that's one to kind of like, we need to cut her down because she has ideas above her station. Maybe I would be a good chief nurse of England, but who says I want to do that? Who says I want to be the first? Who says I would want to do that? It would take an ally who I trust, who I knew had my back, to come to me and plant that seed and say, have you thought about X? And that would make me kind of, as an introvert, think, oh my goodness, that's how they see me. That's not how I see myself. No, no, no. But it would plant a seed of confidence. So allies are quite powerful.
um that it's powerful, isn't it? It's having that, and I think everybody needs an ally as well, and I think everybody has that ability to become an ally. And I think as well sometimes, and remember you when we talked previously, you were talking about that not standing in a room, seeing it, and then coming to you later on.
Yes.
You know, actually being present in that moment and confronting it, and I think that's powerful as well.
You know, that in the moment, I think somebody's going to start giving me the nickname as in the moment, because so many people have come up to me and said, I got it the first time you said it. So in the moment, this is happening. Yes, you have a split second to think, do I get involved? It's not affecting me. I can easily turn a blind eye, but then I'll have to live with my conscience later. Yeah. Or do I, in the moment, do something, say something that will mean that whoever is doing what they're not supposed to be doing think, hang on a minute, I've crossed the line. That person might never change, yeah? And discrimination comes in all shapes and sizes. So it's not just about race. It could be about a disability. It could be about anything, about someone's sexual orientation. But in that second, an ally needs to have that. I call it moral courage. Other people can call it anything. But in that moment, I've had to do it. I've had to do it for others. And it's easier for me to speak up on behalf of others than myself. The reason it's easier for me in the moment to speak up for others than myself is that I don't like to go away from a situation and say, I wish I had said this, I wish I had done something, because I have to look that person in the eye. So the fear of not being able to look that person in the eye later in the day, tomorrow, next week, moves me into that moral courage space. And even when my voice is shaking, even when I know, my goodness, I could be just talking myself out of a promotion, the right thing is the right thing, and it remains the right thing. So I will find the voice. I'll find that voice. And it comes from my ancestry. So in Jamaica, we had people called Maroons, who were enslaved people who ran away into the mountains. They're quite ingenious. They camouflage themselves into the background, and they would fight because they decided that they weren't going to suffer through slavery anymore. So they were quite wild people, some people would term it, but I call them brave. That maroon blood runs through my vein, that I get so enraged on behalf of others that I can be nothing but an ally for others. And I am an ally for anyone who feels that they don't have a voice. So I myself then need an ally, because I will neglect me and turn a blind eye to me and what's happening to me, sometimes without realizing it. So even allies will need allies. And I think it's a case of, in that moment, speaking up. But if more people have the courage, eventually, this is not the thing we do around here to be discriminatory. It just becomes against the norm. Who wants to be in a room where they say something inappropriate and everybody comes down? And I don't think you would want to be that person. So if you knew that that is a potential, it might not change your views. Hopefully it will, but it might change what you say and what you do and how you treat people, because you know you're not going to get away with it. People who do unjust things, who discriminate, who are racially abusive, who bigotry and, you know, misogyny, they do it because they can rely on silence. They can rely on that silence. And as long as they rely on that silence to maintain the status quo, they'll get away with it. And they'll say to people like me, who are quite emotional, introverts, they'll say, oh, Nicole wears her heart on her sleeve. That means, you know, in some ways, she's very emotional. So to take whatever she says with a pinch of salt, that's discrediting me before I even begin. So yes, it's important to create a safe space for all.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the title of the talk is Being Better, Not Bitter. So where's that concept, and what's that concept?
I think bitterness is a human reaction sometimes to become bitter. You know, sometimes I give the example of a chief exec who I work with the Royal College of Nursing Institute, and they wanted to promote older people's nursing, and they asked if they could come and do some photos of me to complement the article. And it got to the point where it had to go to the chief exec, because the chief exec didn't, you know, comms couldn't sign it off. And I heard that the chief exec didn't like when individual people get glory. And I had planned to involve the ward managers, a whole team, but they knew me. So I was the one who was opening the doors and being an ally to others. And it kind of upset me that actually it was perceived that here's Nicole glory hunting again. I'm a natural introvert. My natural comfort zone is to be in the background. But because there are not many people who look like me, sound like me, I was told by a chief nurse one day to get over myself and get out of my own way. And I promptly did. So me asking for this photographer to come wasn't about my glory. It was about me inspiring the next generation to say, actually, I would like to be involved with some of that work as well to open the door, legacy. And when she said that, I I thought, no, we're going to actually go ahead with it. It's not about honor and individual glory. And the next week, that same chief exec was given an OBE. And I thought, but that's individual glory. So it's okay for you. But me trying to encourage people into older people nursing, oh, so I had a split second to either be bitter and twisted and give her the satisfaction of look at this aggressive Black female, which is a stereotype, by the way, or be better and rise above it. So I chose the Michelle Obama. When they go low, I go high. So it's that better, not bitter. It's a repetitive it's a conscious decision that I have to make when I reflect on some of these experiences. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to become bitter and twisted. I've seen it happen to people who look like me, where they've been through so much that they just can't let it go. I need to be able to say, that's on them. Yeah, you see me as a Black and inferior. Well, I love my skin, my melanin. I appreciate my history. I'm not ashamed. I love it. But it takes that strength to kind of recognize that actually, not because someone thinks of you that way, that means you have to be what they say. So that being better rather than being bitter is something that I think people who are discriminated have to do, because we have to come out of this, and all of what we've been through has to be worth it. Something good has to come out. And I get junior colleagues calling me up. They message me on social media. I think they feel safe. They know I can't see it and ignore it. And they tell me what they're going through. And they said, Nicole, someone said to me today, I did a Nicole today. I said, what does that mean? I found my authentic self and I spoke up, and I thought, goodness, I can retire. You know?
Absolutely. And as much as we're talking about racism and obviously systemic racism within the NHS, and a lot of workforce surveys that have recently been released around, they're more likely to go through disciplinary procedures than their white counterparts. They're more likely to be overseen for promotion than their white counterparts. Do you think now we've highlighted it in such a way that, do you think the change is coming? Do you think we are getting better? The more allies we have, the more we support everybody within whatever organization we are. Do you think we are getting better?
I think slowly. The progress is slow, but at least we're speaking about it. Before, we wouldn't be speaking about it. And I think people have become a little bit more comfortable with the uncomfortable realities of it. But we still need more. We still need more to be done, because I have colleagues who are quite junior who are hearing things that I was told 20 years ago. So the progress is there, but it is not at the pace that we need to keep up to maintain the workforce, for people to say, actually, there is hope. I think, yes, statistics are good, but actually, sometimes people might think the quota, like a tick box thing. But with allies, what I've found is that what I find really refreshing with allies is that the curiosity, yes, wanting to know more, wanting to understand, that empathy, putting themselves in a position where they're able to say, I don't understand. I really appreciate and respect that, because to me that sends a message that there is hope. But I think the change needs to happen at a faster rate. The fact that people who are from different backgrounds are, facing more tribunals, or even sometimes being referred at a higher rate, but then there is no case to answer and then nothing happens, the damage is done. The damage is done. It's very hard to come back to the same work environment after you've been suspended, but no case to answer, because people think, well, maybe they just couldn't prove it, but she's still guilty or he's still guilty. So I think we need to do more in terms of having a fairer system that looks at the triaging of concerns on that pathway to say, actually, no, this doesn't, there is nothing to answer here, rather than quick to suspend and then, oh, you can come back now. That's hard.
Very hard, and I can imagine it kind of follows you around then as well, doesn't it? Even when you do, if you go to another organisation, that will still carry your confidence, and I suppose, you know, that in yourself you'll start to struggle to do your job just because you haven't got that confidence to do it the way you used to do it, for fear.
Agreed. And someone just put in the chat, it's gone now, about allyship across the protected characteristics. I feel very strongly about that because we have 9 protected characteristics. I'm sure we could have more, but for the moment we have 9. And we need to ensure that everyone who is protected feels safe. And we need to be allies of people who are not able to speak for themselves. And people have that double whammy, triple whammy of several of the protected characteristics, that intersectionality. So we need to be mindful of that. This is not just a race thing. Equality, diversity, and inclusion covers a broad spectrum. And we need to take everyone, leave no one behind.